So we have an amazing speaker, Mr. Ravi Ranjan, with us, who will be talking about how to go ahead from this startup economy innovation. And yes, let's hear from Ravi. Thank you so much, Ravi, for joining in. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the entire team of Inspiria Startup Weekend for organizing something so amazing like this, and also wishing all the best to all the participants. A very quick, point here. I got an opportunity to be part of various startup weekends in the past in the country, and for all the people who are joining in for the first time, I think this is a very, very interesting opportunity for all of you to validate your ideas, what you're trying to build. Some of you might have been thinking about ideas. Oh, I want to do this. I want to build this. But this event is actually going to give you that opportunity to actually go out and do that. So I think let's make the most of it. My name is Ravi Ranjan, and while I'll talk about what I have been doing for the past few years. One thing which I want to talk about very quickly is that today, over the next 15-20 minutes, I would like to share with you my little knowledge about the Indian startup ecosystem, how things are evolving. As an entrepreneur, how you can take your idea to the next level. And I would also try and very quickly emphasize on customer validation, because that is something very, very important while you're building a product. Getting constant feedback from customers and building on top of that is something very, 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 very crucial. So without any further ado, let me start by sharing a quick presentation. Just give me a second. Okay, here we have. Aditya, let me know if my presentation is visible. Hello?
Yes, it is.
All right, so I'll very quickly talk about entrepreneurship and innovation. I'll first talk about this thing, very, very important, but very few people know about this. India has recently entered into a demographic dividend phase from 2018 to 2055. 37 years is the window which we have got. Japan had this opportunity in
Excuse me, Ravi, can you share the presentation again? It's not visible. I'll go.
Is it visible now?
No.
Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, so I was talking about demographic dividend. India has entered into this phase from 2018 to 2055. Countries like Japan, Italy, Korea, they had this phase. Demographic dividend is a phase where a country has the highest number of young people part of the population, which means that the dependency ratio of older people goes low and more people become part of this very interesting opportunity. India is currently into that opportunity. So all of you, all the young people who are today part of this event, it is now your opportunity and your time to shine, to contribute to make India the true startup and innovation story. Very quickly, I would like to talk about some of the examples of what is the basic difference between a business and a startup. I'm sure during the orientation you must have covered it, but I'll just take a few minutes. This is one example of Reliance Communication that started in 2002 with a 500 rupees handset and free incoming calls. Launched GSM service in 2007. By 2010, they had 100 million subscribers, but something did not go right for them. They discontinued their voice services in 2017, and in 2019, the company filed for bankruptcy. What went wrong for them? Before we talk about that, let's look at another company in exactly similar domain, Jio. Launched in 2016 with the cheapest 4G data plans across the world, 376 million subscribers by 2020. In 3 years, it's now India's largest and world's second largest telecom operator. And interestingly, during the lockdown, they have raised more than $20 billion. What made difference between Reliance and Jio is that Jio always focused on constant innovation. While Jio is part of the large Reliance business, they still operate as a startup, and they have done various investment and acquisition to acquire the best technology of the world. Recently, during the Jio AGM, they presented a option called Geo Glasses, which is a very interesting product, something similar to Google Glass. But I'm sure you'll be surprised to know that this product was developed by a startup called Tesseract. So they acquired the company just a couple of months before the AGM, and now it's part of the Geo arsenal. So what it says is that if you are building a venture which is kind of working on innovation, then you are differentiating yourself from a typical business, and that's what can give you a lot of advantage. I want to talk very quickly about Vedantu. Started in 2015 2005 as a as a test preparation company, but then they moved on to a live interactive class platform called Vedantu in 2014. As of April 2020, they have raised a very good amount of funding. And what makes Vedantu different is that in India there are millions of coaching and tuition centers. Vedantu try to bring that entire experience online, and that makes them very, very scalable. And that is the difference between a typical coaching business and what Vedantu is trying to build. I would like to talk about very quick last example of Boeing. I'm sure all of you know about NASA. It's one of the biggest space agency in the world. Boeing started in 1916. They charge $4.6 billion to NASA so that they can send 6 flights to ISS. And NASA also pays $90 million per astronaut per flight. Now you might ask, what is the difference between Boeing and what can be another innovation? While Boeing, I would say, is a very good company, somehow they did not innovate as much as they should. And that's where the opportunity came to SpaceX. Started in 2002 by a team of people who had no significant experience in space sciences. Still, NASA is now working with SpaceX because SpaceX is giving a cheaper option for NASA. NASA also pays a cheaper per astronaut per flight. SpaceX became the first in history to launch 2 rockets and have them land within 48 hours. Also, their Falcon Heavy became the most powerful commercial rocket in the world to ever be launched. This is a very interesting example of how a small startup started in 2002 is now giving tough competition to a company like Boeing. And similarly, you can also do the same. I would very quickly talk about startup economy. What startup economy means is that today, majority of the stock exchange, if you look at the top 50, 100 companies, most of them are startups. Interestingly, I would like to share a very quick story. Day before yesterday, one of the company called Ant Financial, which is part of Alibaba Group, they launched their IPO, which is the initial public offering, when a private limited company go for public listing for the first time. Their IPO is one of the biggest in the world, and the kind of transactions Ant Financial is doing is similar to GDP of India, which is a crazy number to look at. But if you look at these 4 companies here, Skype is a company from Estonia. It's a very cold country, not a good place for agriculture, but because of Skype, Estonia is today one of the most technologically advanced country in the world. It has completely changed the entire country. Similarly, Gojek is a company from Indonesia, which empower millions of people to get opportunity as a micro entrepreneur. Gojek has inspired millions of people in Indonesia to become micro entrepreneur and get a good livelihood. Google has inspired millions of us across the world. And similarly, Flipkart in India is a successful story of how it inspired the entire generation. And it has definitely put Indian startup story to the next level. I'll just take 1 minute very quickly to talk about Indian startup landscape. As of 2019, there are more than 9,000 startups, which are primarily tech startups. In 2019, 14.5 billion was raised. And by 2025, the Indian startups are going to create 5 million jobs. Now, this presentation was created right before the lockdown and pandemic hit our world. Guys, the world has changed forever. It's not going to be same it was earlier. And while earlier we used to talk about entrepreneurship as an option, today entrepreneurship is going to be the most strong opportunity for all of you to not only do good for yourself, but for the society as well. These are some of the numbers about India's story. I'm going to leave that thing, and I'm going to come very quickly about innovation. While we talk about innovation every single day, we hear from our teachers, our parents, think out of the box. But we are just one human, one person. How can we think out of the box? How can we do things very, very differently? My take onto this is that you do not need to be a rocket scientist to think innovative. You need to look at a big problem and look at a very simple solution. And I think that is innovation. Let me talk about very quickly 4 examples here. The first company is called Zipline. Zipline is a company based out of San Francisco, but they operate in Africa. They use drones to deliver blood and hospital supplies. Over the last few years, Zipline has saved thousands of lives across African countries by delivering blood and essential medical supplies in a very short span of time. The second company is called MyLab. It's an Indian biotechnology company that developed the first made in India COVID-19 kit, which today helped millions of people save their lives in India. The third company I want to talk about is Husk Power. It's a company from Bihar, but it's one of the most innovative companies in the world. Husk Power uses rice husk to generate electricity and supply into villages where people have never seen electricity before. They have raised a very big round of funding and they are doing wonderful work. I would also like to talk about e-gaming as an opportunity. As young people, I'm sure you love playing games, but have you ever thought about esports as an opportunity. Today, there are universities in US and China which are training students on esports, and there are professional teams which go and play esports like Fortnite and Counter-Strike and etc. I'm just trying to give you a perspective of a new, ecosystem. While I have a slide on startup funding, I think I'm gonna not talk about this because I was Aditya requested me if I can talk more about customer validation. So I'm gonna talk very quickly about customer validation. While I would say I'm not the best person to talk about it, Atul is the best person because Atul has built a very, very wonderful product. Atul is the founding director for Inspiria. Atul is also a serial entrepreneur. He has a very interesting company. Atul, maybe I would request you to share some insights from there as well. But I would very quickly talk about when we say customer validation, I would like to bring a company here and share the example with you, and then I will go into the Q&A mode. So the company which I want to talk about is WakeFit. WakeFit is a company which makes mattresses. Now you might say, what is unique about mattresses? Because there are so many companies like CurlFit, Curlon. There are companies like Sleepwell. They have been making mattress for a long time. What makes WakeFit unique is that the entire company is based on customer satisfaction. WakeFit is one of the first company in India which gives 100 days no question asked return policy, which means that you order a product from their website or Amazon, you use it for a long time, and if you do not like it, you can send it and get your refund back. What it means, what it showcases, is that the company is so confident about their product that they are ready to give you a 100-day return policy. Number two, they launched a very interesting campaign last year called the Sleep Intern, where they said that they will pay 4 lakh rupees to an intern and the job of the intern would be to come to office and sleep 8 hours every day on the mattress. I'm sure that would be a dream job for everyone. But look at the branding aspect of it. WakeFit, just by this campaign, got so much response from customers across the country. Coming back to the original point of conversation, customer validation, WakeFit started their idea based on initial customer feedback that in India, buying a mattress is challenging. Also, it takes a lot of space. WakeFit created a roll mattress where you can just roll the mattress and put it in one corner of your house. Also, the mattresses are truly affordable when we talk about affordability as a challenge in India. Even today, WakeFit, when they sell a product, they do constant follow-up with their customer and try and get feedback from them. That was a quick example. Coming back to all the participants of Startup Weekend, when you're building a solution and you have to pitch over the next 24 hours, how can you get quick customer validation? If you're building a product which is touch and feel, I would recommend that if you can just get initial feedback from people around you. But if you're building an online product, I think you can very easily take the power of Google Forms, you can take the power of SurveyMonkey, and you can take the power of social media to send a quick alpha or beta prototype to your friends and family and just get initial feedback from them. If you're building, let's say, a product where people can use technology to let's say during the COVID-19, everyone needs to wear a mask and you need to follow social distancing. Imagine if you're building a product where you can use a surveillance system, you can use camera to detect if people are maintaining social distance, also if they are wearing a mask or not. It's a very simple API integration. You take camera feed and you put the API layer on top of that just to identify if a person is wearing a mask or not. How can you get a customer validation for this? Number one, you need to send it to your target audience, which might be a hospital or a government office. Try and understand if they would like to use a product like this or not. Number two, try and get some early feedback from people who are going to be the end user of something like this. So to summarize very quickly, because you have a very little window to do your customer validation, try and take advantage of, just create a Google form, send it out on using SurveyMonkey, or just create a survey on SurveyMonkey and send it on your social media. Throw it across your WhatsApp friends, put it on various WhatsApp groups and try and get early customer validation. In a real world scenario, the early customer validation can go as long as 1 month or 2 months, where you start an alpha, you have a control testing, then you go out and then you do a little market testing, then you launch your product and then you get customer validation in the real world. Because trust me guys, one thing which is challenging in India while developing a product is that we try to put a lot of features onto the product, but people actually end up using just 1 or 2 feature. I'll give you a very quick example. WhatsApp. WhatsApp started with one simple feature where you can share text and pictures over various platforms. I remember when I was using WhatsApp for the first time, I had a BlackBerry phone. At that point of time, it was very difficult to share any multimedia content between two different operating systems such as Android and BlackBerry. BlackBerry had something called BBM. It was very powerful. But WhatsApp realized that soon it would be a world where people would be using various operating systems. And that is why WhatsApp became very popular. Now we have an Indian company called Hike. Hike has so many features that people get confused. Which feature should I use and which feature I should not use? So one thing which you need to understand, that when you're building a product, try and have minimum feature, because your customers are going to use just few features. You need to kill one feature every day rather than adding one feature every day. That is something which you should definitely keep in mind. Do not make your product cluttered. Try and have very simple option, because you need to think of your customer as a layman and as a person who do not understand technology, and make it as simple as the Google search box. Now imagine Google has a very simple layout where you go and search, but at the back end, it is a really complicated technology. They have millions of terabytes of data, and they do so much matchmaking to give you that one simple research on what is the best biryani place in Siliguri. That is exactly how you need to think about building a product, and that's how you can get your early customer validation. I think my time is up, so I'm gonna just leave it now for some questions. If you have any of the questions, do let me know. I'll be happy to answer them.
Guys, if you have any question on how to go ahead, please ask it. We have a couple of 4 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes more.
Yeah,
There
go
is
ahead.
a question from Shaurya Shah: how to identify specific audience or targeted audience?
That's a very good question, Shaurya. So first of all, you need to understand if you are doing a B2B product, or if you're doing a B2C product, or if you're doing a B2G product. If you're doing a B2C product, let's say you're trying to sell organic range of cosmetics, then your target audience is going to be women who are into age bracket of 20 to 35, who are a little conscious about environment. Because when you talk about organic cosmetic range, young people are going to be more and more concerned about environment. So what you can do is that you can go online on social media, let's say Facebook, look for groups where you have people talking about fashion and cosmetics. Just put a simple presentation or a text into that I'm building a 100% vegan cosmetic company. And trust me, I mean, while I'm talking about it, I just want to tell you that cosmetic industry has not seen a lot of innovation. And currently in 2020 and beyond, vegan cosmetics which are not tested on animal, cosmetics which are environment friendly, is a huge market. If you're trying to build something into that, it's a very good opportunity. So let's say you're trying to build a vegan cosmetic brand. You can go onto various various platforms online, like Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, where people are talking about cosmetics, and try and get early validation from them. This is how you identify specific audience. If you are selling, I would say organic food, who is your target audience? Your target audience are going to be people who are health conscious, people who are going to gym, people who are runner, people who are part of marathon groups. They want to eat healthy every single day, so you need to target them. Also, you need to work with dietitian, because eventually the dietitian recommend healthy options to people. So these are the two kind of target audience. So one, you'll have direct target audience, direct consumer, where you can go and talk to them. Second, will be an indirect approach. So for example, if you're making a medical product, you cannot sell your medical product directly to the patient. You need to sell it to the hospital or to the doctor, because eventually they would be the one recommending that medical device. So you need to look at in a similar aspect, where you can you need to shortlist and break down who your end user is going to be and who's going to write you the check. Accordingly, you need to start pitching it to them. We have the next question from Ganesh. If we have idea but no money to develop, what are the ways to get money? Very good question, Ganesh. In fact, my presentation had a detailed slide around that. But very quickly to summarize that, there are 3 ways before you can raise money from investors. And you need to understand, an angel investor or a venture capital investor would not invest money in your company because your company need money. They would invest money in your company because you are looking for growth and not to develop your product. But you might say, Ganesh, how do I reach to that level where I'm at a growth stage? There are three options. Number one, bootstrapping. What bootstrapping mean is that you invest your own money in the company to take the company to the next level where your idea can be validated. Number two, there are a lot of business plan events happening across the country where you can get a very good funding opportunity. IIT Mumbai has something, IIT Delhi has something, you can apply for them and get some access. Number three, you can raise money from your friends, family. If they believe in you, you can convince them to give you some funding. If not, then also very interestingly, Government of India now has a program called Nidhi EIR. If you're a technology or biotechnology student, you can get a grant of 35,000 rupees every month for the next 12 months if you're building a startup. So these are some of the options where you can raise very early, small but very important funding. The next question is from Ananya. In India, how to market much advanced but expensive product, as India is a very price sensitive market? Ananya, very good question. My response to this would be, if you are talking about a luxury product or if you're talking about advanced technology, India is still a very big market for luxury segment. You need to just identify how to reach out to them. So there are these high-end magazines which are printed only for the luxury users. Also, there are platforms where luxury products are being bought and sold. And just to let you know, if you're trying to sell very, very luxury products, Southeast Asia is a very good market. Singapore, Thailand, China as well. If you want to sell to them, they have a lot of consumption for luxury products. Next one, Prachuria Ray has a question on how to change customer behavior or the entire industry. I think that's a very strong question, Prachuria. And companies like Quora, companies like Visa, MasterCard, they are the one who are changing customer behavior. Because in a world where people were completely dependent on currency and cash, a company like Visa or a company like a credit card company, they change the customer behavior. And further on, a company like Amazon has now done the work for all the e-commerce players across the world. Amazon spent more than 17 years across the world to convince people that you can buy products online. And because of that effort, today e-commerce has become so successful. So if you're trying to build something in a similar way where you have to change customer behavior, you need to be, number one, persistent. Number two, you need to have a lot of capital to spend money on changing customer behavior. Number three, you need to have very strong people on your team so that you can make product and services which is sticky, so that people start falling in love with the idea. One of the best example of this is Uber. Uber today is the largest taxi company in the world without any asset of their own, but they have changed the customer behavior. Today, a person like you and me cannot imagine our life without Uber and Ola. And that's how you change customer behavior. Can a company go for both B2B and B2C? The question is from Avantika Thapa. Certainly, Avantika, you can do that. However, I would recommend that in the initial first couple of years, try and do either B2B or B2C. That's what's going to be easy for you, because otherwise it's going to be very complicated, back and forth. You would not be able to focus on either of them. So try and start with one segment and then later go on to another segment. I'll give you an example of this. 2012, I met a team of young people at SRM Chennai. They have developed one of the first and only product in the world where you can make dosa in a machine. So their device is called a dosa printer. It's called Dosa-matic. You put the dosa batter, oil and water, you press the button, and in 60 seconds, a hot, crispy dosa comes out. Initially, they focused on B2B. They sold their dosa machine in countries like Norway and Ireland and the US. Now they're trying to launch consumer products. Because they have validated the market, they have huge revenue so that they can do experiment. The next question is from Viraj Shah. How to market our product so that our product fits right into 135 crore population? That's a very good question. But my question to you, Viraj, do you really want to go to the entire 135 crore population? Because that's going to be a huge number. Even the biggest of the companies cannot do that. Why don't you start small? Think like Paytm, where they started with a small chunk, and then when the demonetization happened, suddenly Paytm became a household name. Similarly, today, during the lockdown, when all of us are sitting in our homes, look at a company like AirMeet. AirMeet took advantage of this opportunity, because AirMeet has been in work for a long time. But there were players like Skype and Zoom, and nobody was thinking about AirMeet. But AirMeet looked at a segment where they wanted to make a made in India product. And today, look at Zoom and AirMeet. They are the perfect example of how they are diversifying. And today, Zoom has become a household name. Every one of us, our parents know what Zoom is and what Zoom meetings are. What should be the ultimate goal of a startup? The question is from Shoris Shah. Sure, I would say the ultimate goal of a startup should be solving a problem, number one. Number two, creating opportunities for various people. Number three, it should be wealth creation so that you can then go back and contribute. And last one, it should be definitely to empower people around you. Next one, we'll take the last question. Whenever an investor invests in your startup, if anyhow the product fails in market and leading to closing of startup, are the founders responsible for filing up the investor loss? No. If you're raising from professional investors, which are typically called angel investment networks or venture capital, they do the due diligence on your company and product. If the product looks good, they invest in your company. However, if even after putting 100% effort, if the company does not work, you do not need to return the money. Okay, this one is an interesting question. I'll take it up and then we'll wrap up. Adding feature is a way to expand. So by killing it, won't we limit our market? Pratham Agarwal asked this question. Pratham, imagine WhatsApp on one side and imagine Hike on the other side. Hike has so many features of sending emoticons, emojis, stickers, this and that. But Hike never focused on the core business, which is sending pictures and messages. I'll give you one more example. Facebook Messenger. It is a good product, but it failed miserably. Because when you go to Facebook Messenger, there are so many options. It's so cluttered that people are so confused. Facebook had to spend $19 billion to acquire WhatsApp because their own platform was not sufficient because it had so many features. What I'm trying to say is that not kill your feature, but do not overload your product with so many features so that people get confused about what to use. And they would eventually lose interest in your product because there are so many, it's so cluttered. Aditya, I hope that helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Great. Once again, I wish you guys all the best. I have been part of various startup weekends, and it was very, very interesting, very powerful. And I'm sure you guys are in for a real treat. And you have Aditya here, who is a wonderful facilitator, and you have Inspiria team to support you. So I wish you guys all the best. Have a great weekend, and I look forward for some really great ideas coming from this hackathon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ravi, for the amazing time.